Okay, so there's a great paper that came out in 2009 called Electromagnetic Fields, Stress Living Cells that goes into these dynamics, and we're just going to look at some of the highlights because this is very relevant to all of us, because it seems that these electromagnetic events are increasing in intensity as more energy is coming into our planet between solar cycle 25, between us having changed the kind of atmospheric composition. It's holding on to more energy as a result. So there's a greater electromagnetic potentials on our planet right now, and this means potentially more stress for us biologically at the cellular level, and then also manifesting into our actual daily lives. So electromagnetic fields, EMF, in both the extremely low frequency and radio frequency ranges activate the cellular stress response. Now, important thing to take note here too is, in addition to these natural electromagnetic fields that are increasing in frequency and power because of solar cycle 25, we're also layering on more and more electromagnetic energy artificially between the power grids, cellular grids, Wi-Fi, cell phones, television signals, radio waves. All these things interact with us at the cellular DNA scales. Induction of the stress response involves activation of DNA, and despite the large difference in energy between extremely low frequency and radio frequency, this is in the hertz range, 10, 20, 30 hertz. This is in the megahertz and gigahertz range, so billions of times per second. The same cellular pathways respond to both frequency ranges. Electromagnetic fields could interact directly with electrons in DNA, while low energy electromagnetic fields interact with DNA to induce a stress response. Increasing electromagnetic field energy in the radio frequency range can lead to breaks in DNA strands. So we're not only dealing with more geophysical energies and natural, like the Schumann resonances and strong weather systems, we're also dealing with all the electrosmog that we've put out. And that's really the heart of this message here, is that as we keep layering on electromagnetic fields to our environment, to our location in space and time, we're going to have more and more biologic interactions with these fields, and typically, it seems, they activate the stress response through specific gene expression. Electromagnetic fields induce gene expression and the synthesis of specific proteins. The fact that this does this generated considerable controversy from, of course, power companies, government agencies, physicists, and most recently, cell phone companies. So they have a vested interest, of course, in not telling you this. It is now generally accepted that weak electromagnetic fields in the power frequency range, that's 50, 60 hertz, which is what our power grids run on, can activate DNA to synthesize proteins. Now, what are these proteins? These are things like heat shock proteins, stress proteins. DNA can no longer be considered unaffected by environmental electromagnetic field levels. It can also be activated and damaged by electromagnetic fields at levels that are considered, as of right now, safe. So what they call safe electromagnetic field exposure is, based on the science, not safe. The vulnerability of DNA to environmental influences and the possible dangers associated with electromagnetic fields have been underscored by the discovery of electromagnetic field activation of the cellular stress response in the extremely low frequency range. That's that Schumann resonances band going from 0 to 100 hertz or so. The cellular stress response is an unambiguous signal. Unambiguous. There's no doubting it, because you can measure these things. You can measure the proteins that are being produced. It's an unambiguous signal by the cell that electromagnetic fields are potentially harmful. It really depends on how much that stress response is triggered and how well a person can cope with that stress response. If you have a large stress threshold, hey, you're fine. It's better to not have it, but you're still fine. But if you're at a critical stress threshold, that's where you have a problem. And more people are at critical stress thresholds from a variety of factors, which would be beyond the scope of this video. I'm sure you can fill in some of those blanks from what's happened over the past years, hint, hint.